Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. A few housekeeping items really quick. You can't have advertising without false advertising. I have way less hair, so that is false advertising. I'm excited for a night of a combination of products between Joe and Nicole, so that'll be fun for me soon. And I'm sad that golf season is over, but excited to retire this Saturday because I have the winning Powerball ticket for $1.5 billion.
Nice.
So we're going to have some fun there. Yeah, it's going to be great. And good friends to see, like Dan and Gymshark, and it's so good to be here. I'm Mike. I've been with Basis Technologies now into my 16th year. That's 38% of my entire life. So if you see me jump out of the window, that's why, but it's still pretty fun. So I'm excited to introduce next to me. This is Scott Boyle from Danone. He is SVP of Analytics and Insights. And 5 years prior to this, you spent your time at Diageo, right?
That's right. So I'm actually brand new to Denver and to Danone, but a lot of very exciting common themes. So my wife and I are actually just moving back. We've been in Amsterdam and London for the past 10 years. So all of the fun of re-entering into American society has been an adventure. But no, it's been wonderful. It's been really, really great.
That's great. And as a Denver native, welcome. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
And everyone loves to move here, so that's great. So today we're going to be chatting about consumer and customer-backed organizations. So first off, what is that and why does it matter?
Great question. So how many brand folks do we have in here? Quite a few. Good. So I think we've gotten really good at building meaningful brands. And I think when you look kind of back at the road to where I am today, I've been lucky enough to work at places like Unilever, Kimberly-Clark, PepsiCo, and like you said, most recently, Diageo. And the thing that all of those places have in common is building powerful, meaningful brands is at the top of mind, right? And we're damn good at it, right? The other thing they have in common, the flip side, is there's a lot of mouths to feed. So when you're thinking about having a cohesive way that we show up in market, you really need to start thinking about how do you equip your salespeople to tell the story of the meaning of what we're bringing to the table, rather than a list of 35 incredible brand initiatives and why they all matter. So the name of the game is really saying, let's not change anything in that power of how we build brands. I think Danone is incredible of thinking about the best of big and the best of small. So how can we make sure everything from the top of mind oikos or silk brand all the way down to plant-based cheeses and infant nutrition, we bring that same spirit and rigor. But it's really all about understanding what our customers care about and putting that at the front of the process rather than having it be the last thing we think about as we go and try to sell them all the cool stuff we have.
That brings a question. Everyone's talking about data. Working? No. What data are you using that is impactful? What's just data?
Ooh, there's a lot of noise. So I think the overall capability of the way that the marketplace has gone with the incredible amount of insight we can generate about what, why, and how people are interested in satisfying their needs has almost outstripped our ability to use it, right? So, and that's where the noise comes in. So when we really think big picture, it's more, how do we understand exactly what our consumer is thinking about every day of a need that they're trying to satisfy? What is the kind of spirit behind that need, and what are those demand spaces where they're going to have a repertoire of choice? And how can we drill that down into the occasion of the who, what, where, when, how, to make sure that everything is fit for purpose in the way we address that? And when we think about that from the customer's lens, they know way more about their shoppers. I was wowed by that anthropology session about the amount of, hey, the point of sale detail that they're able to get to. It's a different story for us, right? So we're talking about the Krogers, the Albertsons, the Walmarts. These guys all know their shopper more than we could ever dream to. But what they really rely on to us is to paint them a picture of what the future of consumer needs are going to be, and how does that track through to the in-store experience that they want to create, whether that's digitally or in-store.
Kind of talking about future demand.
That's right. So, and it all starts with understanding today, right? So how can we talk to our consumers and get a really deep understanding about the drivers of choice and what they're looking for? Are we meeting their needs? Really deep panel understanding, but it's the foresights topic as well. So health and wellness is at the core of what we do. We're in a very good place because that's the future. I think society is waking up to how important that is and overall well-being. But there's other stuff, right? Like, I don't know if I was in the alcohol industry, and the whole seltzer wave really threw us off. Like, wow, how did no one come up with that? That seems like
What's your favorite seltzer?
Oh, I think I'm supposed to say Smirnoff, but I would probably say White Claw.
Were you behind the whole like on one knee getting iced kind of situation?
Yeah, back in the day, that was me.
Awesome.
That was me. Yeah.
There you go.
But no, it's really interesting, right? Because all of these things, it's just the blocking and tackling running a business. And I think everyone gets so excited about pardon my language, but the shiny shit that's available now of every way that we can quantify, qualify every element of what someone's thinking about when they make a purchase. But unless that makes it into a process and of a way that we're going to make a decision with prioritized insights, we're really just understanding more without turning those into actions.
Okay, so then what are the elements of your organization that you need to take all of this and put it into fruition? What do you have to do to get to your future state to identify future demand from your customers?
Well, if anyone knows the answer, please grab me at dinner tonight. But no, I think where this is going to be the least sexy presentation that we've had today, I'm sure, but it comes back to process, right? So I'm not talking about squares on a page of how much time do things take and what do we want to spend time on. I'm saying more like, what are the key decisions we actually make in the business? How do we make sure that we're really getting to the core of how we're going to drive the future of the food and bev industry and what that looks like in terms of category landscape? And almost using that as a forethought of thinking about our customers' needs as we go and activate our brands, rather than, again, kind of flipping it around and saying, ooh, we've got these incredible ideas on all of our brands. How can we, at the last minute, package it together and take it to a customer? So it's structure, it's process, it's data, and it's making sure we've got a really crystal clear way of working across strategy, plan, do, and review.
Types of change management techniques do you use if you want to bring on a new platform, or you tell your employees, I want to go this direction and do this with this data? How are you getting them involved in that discussion? And are they usually on board, or do they push back?
So it's a very real one right now for me. So 2.5 months in, really trying to drive a significant change. And this came with a huge restructure within our organization too, because we had the most incredible capability around consumer research that I've seen in any of my stops. We had a separate team on analytics. We had a separate team on marketing effectiveness. All of those things kind of sat in disparate areas of the business. We've brought them all together and kind of taken away the speciality and said, no, you actually own the entire platform of the analytics and insights that are required in each one of these different business units. And it's all about hearts and minds, right? So we don't expect anyone to come in today and know exactly what the future needs to look like, but they have to believe that there's a better way, and it's transformation, right? So again, rhythms, codified frameworks, all those really unsexy topics that's going to make everyone fall asleep, but really proving to them that there is a way to inspire what's possible and get really clear on what's essential.
What's been the biggest shift coming from Diageo, spirits company, nightlife, alcohol, to your current company now, where it is certified B Corp, yogurts, things like that?
Well, the trade visits aren't as exciting, but no, I think the overwhelming thing that really brought me to Danone was there's a lot of places that talk about the spirit of their mission, but it's really real in the way that we think about the business every day. So from the dual purpose project and thinking about the role in society, as well as the role of making nutrition more available to everyone around the world, is very real. And it's something that I think we talk about at least on a weekly basis. Part of our team's actually structured against a group called One Planet, One Health. That's all about bringing that to life, which is incredible. But it is different, right? I think the speed of transactions and the speed to market needs to be a little bit faster. I think in the alcohol industry, for example, the average number of transactions per year in whiskey is like 2.5. So your brand building needs to be very, very salient in a way that people are thinking about it when they go to shelf. Whereas how many people eat yogurt today? Anyone? It's good for you. You should do it. That's probably a bi-weekly trip, right? So the top of mind nature and the way that you're activating lower in the funnel is very, very different. And it's exciting.
Kind of off topic here a little bit, right?
Let's go.
I used to run a dairy department at Safeway for 8 years to put myself through school. So I ordered it all the time.
Yeah.
Any food shortage, supply chain issues happening right now with your company?
It's very real, and it's not for us and alone. I think the entire industry, whether it's back in my Diageo days, glass shortages, I think raw materials in general around plastic and molding has become a very big challenge. And the whole agility and being able to understand what is it that you're actually going to execute with your customers to bring your strategy to life, having visibility to that and being able to react and turn things on and off in a realistic way that's going to help you maintain that business is absolutely essential. So it's very real. It's a struggle every day, but we're probably closer to the light at the end of the tunnel than where we've been for the past 18 months.
What did you take from Diageo over to Danone?
So I do think that at Diageo, so the role I did at Diageo, yeah, I led RGM globally, and we also stood up kind of an end-to-end planning cycle globally. And I was the head of growth, whatever that's called. The entire idea there was to say, we have all of these really robust insights and ways of working across the business, but they exist in pockets and no one talks to each other. So I almost was lucky enough to do an internship, if you will, of getting ready of what it looks like to actually kind of codify and bring all this stuff together. And what Diageo was really, really good at was having their finger on the pulse in a super consistent and codified way about those consumer needs. So there was a panel that came out almost biannually around the shifts in demand landscape and what people were choosing and how we wanted to go after that. We're trying to bring some of those same spirits into the way that we're doing things at Danone.
I find it ironic that we're talking about food right before lunch, and we're the ones that are in the way of getting you to the food. So we'll keep it short and sweet. Retail networks, a lot of them popping up. Guys using them, find value in them. What kind of information are you gleaning from those?
We're definitely engaged. We're definitely signing up. I think we're trying to prioritize through a channel strategy of where the right places are to partner. I think the level of granularity is so different than what we're used to in the consumer space, right? So the way that you can segment, I think segmentation is top of mind for everyone, right? We just heard it in the past two conversations. But really being able to understand the drivers of choice at shelf and understanding the different types of trips and understanding exactly what that path to purchase looks like is a huge white space, I think, across almost all of CPG, right? So it's a capability space we're trying to lean into. But it's all about progress rather than perfection. So if we could even get to a place where we're using the retail link portal from Walmart and making 3 better decisions when it comes to our strategy, that's what we need to celebrate and focus on. And it's all about being able to bring our strategy to life in a way that it's clear that we're trying to do the best for the categories, the best for society, and obviously trying to grow our business.
Demographic shifts are you noticing in, specifically just talk about one product? You have yogurt.
Yeah.
Like anything interesting happening there?
100%. I think regional disparity as well as the ever-growing kind of cross-cultural population, it's manifested in even different use cases. So we have plain Greek yogurt, for example. That is all of a sudden emerging as a key ingredient in cooking, but it's specific to different multiculturals. So I don't know if anyone here makes curry ever. Yeah. So whether you use a coconut milk, we have a lot of plant-based beverages, and trying to understand that whole emerging meeting culinary needs while also staying true to the core of the brand is a very interesting dynamic. In brand choices, right? So people are moving more around the world all the time. Right now we're bringing, as part of the, I should have mentioned this in your last question, the supply challenges, the infant formula, right? There's been a huge shortage. We're the #1 player globally in infant formula, but we just have never had it in the US. So we were shipping from Germany, from New Zealand, from everywhere to get it on shelf. And right now, if you go and check out Walgreens or Target, you'll find it on shelf. But we've found even through that places that have more dynamic cultures of more and more influx of people, we're doing really well in those areas. It's more of the places that's middle America. We have a big job to do to embed this into the way of thinking of, well, what are the best choices for a mom as they're going and thinking about what they're going to do for their baby.
Digital couponing.
Ooh.
Love it, hate it. What do you think?
It has a role. It has a role. I think the biggest struggle with it is being able to understand the whole effectiveness journey. So I think in terms of the KPIs you use to measure what success looks like, you need to think about it very differently. So when you're doing the traditional brick and mortar, hey, we're on display, we have a feature, we're doing a good price proposition, that's a really clear thing that we can all measure and say, hey, here's what would have happened if we didn't do anything versus the uplifts we see in a given period. When you're doing almost a dynamic experience with a lot of touch points that have a totally different funnel of turning into transactions, it's really hard to follow that through. And I think it's almost more of a brand building than it is a commercial exercise. I can see you don't believe me. So when we think about digital couponing, the ability to have great touch points with consumers through digital communications on Instagram, things like that, and also being able to funnel them through in terms of saying, and by the way, here's a great coupon for you. That to me is almost closer up funnel of getting people to think about engaging with the category than necessarily changing their mind as they're going to shelf on the day on a trip they were already going to take. So it's how can we think about these things differently as we're going through the funnel of converting folks.
Technologies are you seeing merging right now that get you excited about advertising opportunities in the future?
So
by the way, we're way off the question.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm not prepared for any of this. So look, I think marketing effectiveness is a really interesting space. And I'm sure everyone has at some point worked with volume metrics, right? What's really challenging, and I think there's probably an opportunity here, is thinking about it in terms of underlying brand health in the drivers within that versus just the variables that change within a year, including weather, that lead to different reactions. So what we're trying to do a better job of is linking everything from the way we think about brand health tracking, the way we're looking at our marketing effectiveness, and linking that all the way through to our S&OP process, so the boring demand planning stuff, so we can actually have a more real live in the moment experience around, well, hold on, what did we think was going to work? And how close were we and where were we wrong in our assumptions? So there's a bunch of exciting places that have kind of full funnel. So I don't want to name any vendors, but some places that are able to help you think through your strategy as well as what you're going to go and execute and the impact you expect those to see. That is a big space that I've seen a couple of different spots looking at the moment.
So taking it back to consumer, customer backed organization, right? How will you know if you get to where you want to be? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, 100%. So I think it's all about picking a key moment that you want to have a qualitative view on, right? And I think historically what I've seen work best is how are you engaging with top to tops with your customers? So today, I think we're through COVID more or less, who knows, right? We have no idea what the next 6 months will look like. But as people are getting out of survival mode of how to maintain their business, it's becoming more and more around, can we get back to really long-term strategic thinking? And through that, us being able to bring a long-term strategy to life about what we believe the category is going to do is really, really critical. And I think today at almost every single stop along the way, except for PepsiCo, is pretty good at it. We do a lot of, well, how do we sell what we want to do to grow market share? And there's not a single customer in the world that cares about that, right? It's more around, hey, here's the way that I'm going to drive penetration, trips, traffic, everything in your store. This is what I think the attributes are that your consumers are going to care about now and in the future. Here are the exciting platforms we're bringing. And here's the way that we're actually ideating with you on the way to best execute that, rather than waiting for the final 5 yards to get it into the end zone and then asking you if you're okay with it, right? So it's almost how can we kind of pull them up funnel and take them on the journey with us throughout? And we're putting in some key moments in our calendar to make sure that that happens.
It's interesting. What's a metric you don't like that advertisers talk about? I know I'm coming at you from all left.
Yeah.
Inquiring minds want to know.
I'll tell you a metric that we're not using enough that I think people are just sick of. So I think the idea of actually targeting our teams on brand power score is probably an opportunity that we've kind of gotten tired of, right? So everything from when you think about the way that you want to set up the DNA of your brand, thinking about it from the 4 Ps of marketing, what does it mean from positioning? What does it mean for all the different places that you want to be? All of those things need to be in spirit of making your brand more meaningful, different, and everything, right? Where I think I've struggled a bit, and as we've all read the book, How Brands Grow, right? So penetration is absolutely important, but when you're living in a world of trying to capture new occasions, it's not the only thing. So especially in these high frequency categories with a good amount of loyalty, it's really important to be thinking about the full funnel of, okay, you recruited someone. Have you actually gotten them to navigate your portfolio more, figure out new emerging occasions in order to tap into, and also making sure that that's turning into bigger baskets for more dollars and more value for our consumers as we go through it.
You didn't really answer the question.
No, I know.
But
You didn't tell me you're gonna.
I know. I'm coming at you with all kinds of different stuff.
I think we overdo the consumer touchpoints thing. And the reason I dislike it is because it's really hard to connect it to an action and to an expected outcome. So I'm not saying that that's bad on its own. I think what I'm saying is we have a long way to go to figure out when you do make a good channel choice, when you do decide the right fit for purpose tool to talk about the occasion you want to win, how can we actually bring that to life of connecting that through to funnel conversion? And that's probably the biggest struggle. It's not so much that I hate the KPI. It's more around the usefulness of it today.
You said a lot of big words there. I'm just a dumb sales guy, so forgive me for
the question.
I know. I like it though. Hiring on your team. Is it hard to source talent? Are you finding good talent? What does that look like?
I think it's the best time ever to get talent. So they're not always for the best reasons, right? I think there's restructuring right now across the industry is very real. I think what we're trying to bring to the table now is broader thinking about what kind of skills do we want to see in these types of roles. So vertical career paths don't exist anymore, right? I have never been an insights person in my entire life, and now I'm running it for these guys. So it's more around how can you make sure that you've got broad talent with a bunch of different experiences that have the combination of consumer love and wanting to understand, but also the way that you can operationalize it and turn it into a running business.
We have 6 minutes until we break for lunch, so we might as well pause now for questions. Pretty cool. We'll taking some. That'd be great. Not that I didn't ask enough.
Yeah, you asked me plenty.
Any questions out there?
It works. Scott, do you guys have some kind of like segmentation schema? And can you talk to us about a little bit of how you put the US into whatever number of segments you have, that kind of work?
Yeah, so we try to do it through probably 3 different lenses. So the demand landscape is the biggest one, right? So we really try to focus in on demand spaces and thinking about where the future growth is going to be in all those different places, and almost using that as like the top of a 2x2 in order to understand the shape of why people are showing up today. We're trying to also understand the importance of price tiers and consumer willingness to pay. So being able to embed that into one place to kind of segment out almost the view of demand, right? Then within that, as we get more micro into occasions and the consumer demographics, it's getting a better understanding of who are these people, what do they care about, what's the consumer job to be done, and what are the proven different tactics that we can go after in order to bring that to life. And then, of course, there's regional. So being able to understand the difference of all the different parts of America and what a melting pot this place has become of very different realities coast to coast. Being able to understand kind of that consumer reality of the different demographics across those different regions. Great question. Thanks.
Steve Glassbrenner with Ground Truth. So I was at a retail media network event earlier this summer in Chicago. I don't know if you guys were there or not, but the opening speaker basically broke the ice and was basically saying what people feel about the retail media network because it's a tax at the time. Obviously, there's a lot of growth there that they need to do in order to make it beneficial for the brands. But I'm giving you a chance to open up and give your opinion about the retail media networks and also working with Targets and Walmarts and basically working with somebody that also competes with you. Is that something that you?
Yeah, look, I'm probably on the opposite end of the coin on this one, because at the end of the day, most of your consumer experience is going to happen at shelf. So being able to crack into understanding what it means to actually deliver value to a shopper, you can't do only the consumer stuff unless you focus on that too. And it's probably from my time in the UK, where it's very consolidated and there is a ton of value coming from the Tesco's of the world. I think it's incredibly valuable, and being able to find the balance between us and them being a competitor as well is challenging, but there's also a lot of different ways to leverage that too, right? So any of the private label goods are generally manufactured by one of us, and there's a role for that to play in terms of making our networks work the best way possible.